Who introduced Afrobeats?
It was Fela Kuti. He was pushing his message, all by himself. He had millions of lovers, millions of followers already. You imagine?
That's crazy. Yo, welcome to Lughie Podcast. This is Lughie Podcast, and today I've got my African brother. By the name is Waley. My brother. What's up, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, bro.
You good, bro?
This is Niger boy from Niger.
Yeah.
Yo,
Lagos.
Come on, cheers, Lagos, man.
Cheers, man.
That's what's up, brother. Man, before I start anything, first I want to appreciate and say thank you for taking your time. I know you have a busy schedule, but still, you made come to show up just to support you and your brother.
Welcome.
And all that, man. Appreciate it, man.
Nice to see you.
Yes, sir. And before I start, I would like to introduce, instead of me introducing myself to you, please, can you introduce, who are you? Who's Waley,
Yeah, well, like you said, my name is Waley.
Right.
I'm from Nigeria.
Right.
Lagos.
Okay.
Lagos, Nigeria. And so I'm a journalist.
Okay.
And also a music enthusiast. So once it's music, I'm there, I love music, I love dancing. I mean, I don't really have like a fine voice, but I like music, I follow music. And of course, my favorite genre has to be Afrobeats.
Afrobeats.
Yeah, because that was what we grew up with. In those days, now you have access to all kinds of music.
Right.
But in those days, before you had Apple Music and Spotify and Amazon Music and all of that, it was just the songs we heard on radio.
Right.
And in those days, it was Afrobeats. That was the domineering genre in those days. So.
Man. They got to Afrobeats, so Afrobeats and Afrobeats, that's the actual music, right?
Yeah, Afrobeats is a genre on its own.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's Afrobeats is a combination of African sounds and a little bit of jazz and funk, the American funk. Yeah. So that's why in Afrobeats you heard there's a lot of the bass guitar. There's a lot of saxophone.
Right.
So a bit of jazz and funk, combined with African sounds. So when you come to African, for African sounds, there's a lot of talking drums. So Afrobeats like I said, it's majorly African sounds.
Right.
So now, in Afrobeats, the kind of instruments involved in Afrobeats is the conga. So for conga, the conga sometimes is in 2s or 3s, so you strike them like that.
Oh, right.
And then you have the talking drum. The talking drum is the one on your shoulder that you hit.
Oh, okay.
And then there's shekere. So shekere is like when you have beats, when you strike beats.
Oh, that's one with right.
The beats when you strike beats on the calabash. That's shekere. So you have different instruments that are African based. That's infused in Afrobeats.
Right.
So
okay. Before you go any further, let's start. Who introduced Afrobeat? Where's the birth? Like, where was this originated, the Afrobeat? Who did it? Who brought it? Yeah. I'm sure it didn't come from heaven.
No, it didn't.
You know what I mean? So give us a little hints, a little history. Who really brought this amazing beats to us?
Yeah, it was Fela Kuti.
Right.
So it's Fela Kuti for short, and then Fela Anikulapo Kuti. That's the full name.
Right.
So Fela was an advocate. He was a social justice. He was an advocate for social justice, right?
Right.
So apart from music, he was also a social activist. Someone was fighting for the common man, common good of people. Right. So he did that through his music. So I'm sure it was because of the love that he had for the people, that made him, really discover this genre that has now gone global.
Right.
So in the 70s, Fela, became a household name in the 70s, and then he started his band in Lagos, in Ikeja, Lagos.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where he had like his house and all of that.
Right.
At that point, the military were in power then.
Oh, ruled by the military.
Yeah, the guy was under the control of the military then.
Right.
And Fela being the outspoken person that he was, he was just he felt like, okay, the only way he could communicate, to the people, to the government, was through music.
Right, through music.
And you had someone who was, the average Nigerian is an extrovert, and then the average Nigerian is direct. They tell you as it is.
Right.
Now, if you combine someone who has love for the people, who fights for the people, they want to carry gun. So he felt like, okay, I'm just gonna talk to the government through music. I'm gonna fight for the government through music, and that was what he did. And it cost him a lot. He got him into trouble.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, because
he went to jail or anything? Or?
Oh, yeah, he went to jail. He went to jail for like 20 months, almost 2 years.
Really?
Because at that point, like I said, the military was in charge. The military. Nigeria was under the military rule then. They didn't like him.
Oh,
because it was like the voice of the masses. And there was a point that, in fact, Fela declared a republic on his own.
Oh, really?
He declared himself president of his republic because he was like, man, you guys are like out of pocket.
Right.
We are tired of what you're doing. You're not caring for the masses. You're not doing what the people want. And then so I'm gonna just be like the leader
of
my own. Yeah.
Right.
So that got to the military and all that. He was jailed. Because the government felt like it was inciting the people.
Right.
Against, once you're under the military rule, your rights are limited, freedom of speech is limited.
Right.
You don't take these things. So they feel like if this guy continues like this, then someday this, people might just troop you again.
Yeah.
So so Fela did all that, through Afrobeat, and then he was preaching for equality. He was preaching for justice. He was preaching for the right thing, to be done, and he was doing that through music. They didn't like him for that. So Fela was, a social activist who just won't take no for an answer. So he kept going on, and to the point that the military got mad. Then it was Buhari that was in charge then, General Muhammadu Buhari.
Oh God, yeah.
Buhari, who later became a civilian president. But at that time, Fela didn't have, he didn't want none of that. He continued to speak against the government, for the people. And in fact, there was a point, the military felt maybe at some point this guy might want to, run for presidency.
Oh, that's what they thought.
Because he was so popular and powerful, and then he was able to, get everyone behind him.
Right.
So his music communicated to everybody. People loved Fela.
All different levels of people.
All different levels, all different facets and all that. In beer parlors, you call it bars, but back home we call it beer parlors.
Okay.
So at beer parlors, in vehicles, everywhere, village square, market square, everyone was listening to Fela.
Wow.
So Afrobeat is more than a genre. It's a movement.
It's deeper.
It's deeper. So now it's all funky and all that. We all dance to it, but in those days, it was danceable too. In those days, but it was majorly for communication. It was movement.
Yes,
so and I'm glad that till now, a lot of artists are using it to speak
to empower people as well.
Speak to power.
That's what's up. So let me ask you this. How did before we go any further, is it a particular village or was it just Lagos where the originated came from the actual music? So my question to you is, how did that came from there? Well, how did they move how did that spread around to the point where it got to here? Who brought this music here? Who exposed to the Western culture or to the African culture to the point where we are who we are, like where we are now?
Yeah, so Fela died in 1997.
Right.
Yeah. So after Fela died, even before Fela died, Afrobeat was already global, maybe limited, but was already global. Because at some point he got a record deal. He got a management deal.
From here or from back home?
Yeah, from here. Yeah.
Oh, from here?
Yeah. With an American company.
Right.
And then, that partnership allowed Fela to travel around the world.
Right.
Fela was headlining shows with 10,000 people, in the audience.
Easy.
Way back then, those days there was no live streaming and all that, but he was pushing his message, all by himself, and then trying to make people see. And then, those days he kept saying that Afrobeat, this thing is gonna be bigger.
Right.
And then the good thing is his prediction then is happening now. So after Fela died in 1997, I would refer to them as his direct successors. So Fela has sons. Fela has Femi Kuti. Femi Kuti has been nominated for Grammys several times. I can't even remember how many times now. Yeah, mostly alongside Angela Kidjo.
Right.
And then so there's Femi Kuti, there's Seun Kuti.
Oh, so those are
Fela, songs, direct songs.
Okay.
Now, Femi and Seun, and then Femi's son, Madi, Femi's first son, Madi. So Madi is now Fela's grandson.
Okay.
All now do the proper, the Afrobeat, the way Fela was doing it.
The old school way.
The old school way. Tight pants, tight feet, tight shirt, tight pants, mostly African fabric.
Right.
And then beautiful women at the background dancing.
It's all African way of beautiful women anyway. Right.
Shaking the booties. And then, the full light band, the drums, the bassist, the keyboard, everybody doing the thing. So Femi Kuti, Seun Kuti, Madi Kuti, they all do it now big time. In fact, Femi Kuti and Seun Kuti, which is Fela's son and Fela's grandson, were nominated for a Grammy. They had a joint album.
Oh.
Yeah, 2-3 years ago, and they got a Grammy nomination for it. Though they didn't win. Now, after Fela died in 1997, this was in the 90s. So as we progressed into the 20th century, a lot of cats, in Nigeria, started breaking out, gradually. And because of the popularity of Afrobeat, most of the guys that broke out in 2000, 2001, 2002 decided to infuse Afrobeats into, their kind of music. So you had guys that were doing, whether it was R&B, whether it was rap, whether it was pop, whether it was gospel.
Right.
They were infusing a bit of Afrobeat in it. Because of the popularity of Afrobeat in Nigeria. Don't forget that while Fela was alive, he had millions of lovers, millions of followers already. So if you, want to break out and make it in music in Nigeria in those days, you had to do, something related to Afrobeats.
To be able to be successful.
To be able to be successful.
Yeah,
because, people didn't want, this is Nigeria, they don't want the full American jazz,
be dominating,
or R&B or rock and all of that. Even if you're gonna do any of that, you just have to infuse a bit of Afrobeat, so you could win over some of the crowd, that like Fela.
I like that. So let me ask you. So if you look at the transformation or transition from Africa obviously to America, what do you think? How hard or how was easy to break through the market of the Western market? Let's say.
It's always not easy when let's take ourselves.
Right.
If I'm going to someplace new, I'm not familiar with the culture, with the food, with the weather, everything. It's always difficult, right?
Yeah.
It's always, leaving Africa where is you know, it's part of the Sahara,
Right.
mostly hot. If you're going to the Western world, say you're going to America or Europe, man, you know, it's cold, right? And then you get there and then you start feeling all kinds of sickness,
Right.
you know, and then they'd be like, you know, so it wasn't easy for Afrobeats, you know, to break, you know, the international market. It wasn't easy, but the good thing was that I think that's why music is such a huge unifier. You know, it's just like football.
Right.
You know, just sports and all that. Music is such a
Don't say football, by the way. Soccer. Because you're gonna confuse our audience.
No.
Some of our audience will think football is soccer, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you mean soccer, right?
Yeah, soccer. Soccer. Yeah, soccer unifies. You
Right.
know? And I mean, so just the way some things unify, yeah, music unifies. And I think that when Afrobeats. When Afrobeats started, you know, picking up gradually, and then, you know, the old cats, you know, I like to call them the pioneers.
Right.
Those who, you know, emerged in 2000 and early 2000s.
Right.
You know, when they started off, I'm sure it wasn't easy. I don't even know how they did it, cause.
But sorry, bro. Sorry to stop it. But who did it? Like, who was the first person to break through from Africa with Afrobeat to the Western? Like the first people or the musician who like introduced that music here in the Western.
I would say because the good thing is this was when you know, I was in secondary school in those days. And then
So are you Gen Z, by the way?
No, I'm not Gen Z. I'm millennial, man. So I mean, the Gen Zs of today would know Ashake, right. Know Whiskey and Davido and Brother Boy and all of that.
Right,
you know?
right.
But before these big names, you had bigger names in those days. Bigger names in those days.
Right.
Now you had D'banj.
D'banj.
You had D'banj. You had so D'banj was under D'banj was working with Don Jazzy in those days. So they had Moist Records. So they were in UK. So D'banj was UK based, and then Don Jazzy was UK as well. So they met in UK. You know, two Nigerian boys out here in the UK, and then you know, you're doing D'banj was the artist doing, you know, singing, while Don Jazzy was the producer, right? The beats producer. Now you had these guys already making music in the UK. And there was this like, should I say there was this deficit, you know, of sounds, of Afrobeat sounds, kind of, you know, in Nigeria in those days. So they returned from UK, they went back to Nigeria.
Oh. Okay.
By the time they got back to Nigeria, you know, it's that point where, you know, it was, it was the 20th century, things were, you know, starting to pick up internationally. And then when they got back, good for them. There was no, at that point, there was no, I won't say there was no competition, but there was no major competition, especially in that type of genre. In Nigeria at that point. You know. So those days, these guys got back, and then we had sounds like Tungolo. So when D'banj came, D'banj had Tungolo, he had Rundown, he had Mobolo, he had hits, you know, and all of that. But before he came, we had Plantation Boys. There was Plantation Boys.
So that's a group.
That's a group. Plantation Boys was, you know, they were majorly into R&B, high life, but they infused Afrobeat, like I said, you know. Now, the most popular team member from Plantation Boys is Two-Face.
What's the name?
Two-Face.
Oh, Two-Face.
Yeah, Two-Face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in Plantation Boys that time we had Two-Face, we had Blackface, and then we had Face. I remember them. In fact, Two-Face, Blackface, and Face. In fact, Face was my senior in school then. You know, me I attended Festa Grammar School in Festac. So Two-Face was like, you know, my own. Face rather was my own senior in those days. So that time we had Plantation Boys. This is when the guys dominated in those days.
Right.
That was like 2000, 2001. You know, Baba Fela died in 97.
Right.
So 98, 99, 2000. these guys broke out. Plantation Boys,
Right.
2000, 2001. So Plantation Boys broke out, and then there was a Remedies.
Oh, really?
So I'm still going back to the band.
Right.
You know, so before the band and Don Jazzy came back from UK, the two groups that were dominating in Nigeria in those days were Remedies and Plantation Boys. So for Remedies had like 3 cats: Idris Abdul Karim, Eddie Remedy or Eddie Montana, and then Tony Tetula. So eventually these guys went their separate, you know, I mean, most groups, you know, eventually they went their separate ways. Yeah. But they were like the people that were holding it down, you know,
for quite some time. Right.
Now, I think that the band being in UK and Don Jazzy had studied what was going on in Nigeria, and they felt like, okay, this is gonna be our style, you know. Let's go back. They were already doing the music in UK, but you know, sometimes you go where you're appreciated.
They went and recharged.
So they went recharged.
And they went back to the UK.
You know, so I think these were guys that, you know, I mean, you know, they were like, I think they relocated to the UK when they were young, you know. So they came back. So by the time they came back, so it was Remedies and Plantation Boys that were dominating. But people, you know, maybe it was like people were expecting a different sound. So by the time the band came and the band Don Jazzy collaboration, that union was just massive. They killed it. So for the person, I would say, I would credit the band.
The band, okay.
Because it was the band that had like the first major international feature then.
Right.
You know, that was when we had the band and Snoop Dogg. I'm so endowed. Oh, Mr. Endowed. I'm so endowed. Right. So imagine, Snoop Dogg is the OG.
Yeah.
You know, so imagine the Nigerian featuring, you know, it's Snoop Dogg.
D-O-double-G.
Yeah, so it was really big then, you know. And then that kind of broke. In fact, that was like I would say that was the opener, so to speak.
Right.
So we had the band Snoop Dogg in 2011, and then that same year we had P-Square.
Oh, so that's when the P-Square came over.
Yeah, so that's when P-Square came about. So P-Square, we had P-Square and Rick Ross. You know, oh yeah, oh yeah, you know. So, and I mean, this guy just opened a lot of things.
Right,
they opened a lot of doors, and the good thing is, you know, if you want to make money, everyone knows it has to be in America.
You gotta be coming here, man. You break the market here, you're done.
It has to be in America. Once you're accepted in America, it's like, you know, every other door just opens.
Right.
So I would say for me, I'll credit the band. I don't know. Some other people might have their own opinion, right?
Yeah,
but for me, speaking as someone who, you know, who knew and observed what was happening that time, because you know these days were when we were playing cassettes, you know, cassettes, you know those days.
You put the pen and then
those days, you know, and then you try to do the lyrics,
right?
You know, and you know those days was when now you just go online and then you get lyrics to a song,
right?
Those days. You know, they were selling books, they were selling lyrics book, and then you buy and then you press pause and play, you know, you know. So so I'd say the band, and then we had P-Square, you know, and then you had the Two-Face. So because Two-Face at some point, the Remedies split. Plantation Boys rather, they split. Right. So after the splits, you know, everyone went their separate ways doing their own thing, and then. We had, but Two-Face has been the biggest of all. So Two-Face too had a joint with, you know, we had with T-Pain, we had with Beanie Man, you know. So the 2011, 2012 was the era when Afrobeats.
Really?
You know, and I stand to be corrected, you know. Everyone has their opinion.
But
from someone who witnessed what went down, then
that's what
2011, 2012 was when, you know,
everything
just exploded.
Right.
You know.
Good point. So in terms of the Afrobeats from Africa then came to dominate the Western culture or the Western music industry, let's say. what made the Americans or the American market to love this music? Because nowadays, I mean, even we're talking today. There's a song.
What's
the name?
Rick Ross and Pharrell.
And Pharrell.
Yeah. For
this just happened now.
Yeah, just released like today.
Exactly. So what made them fall in love with these beats? What's your opinion? And this can be just your own opinion, though.
My opinion would be that I have to give the Americans especially.
Right.
I gotta give them a lot of credit.
Right.
The typical American is open-minded.
Amen. That's what's up.
The typical American, wants to, explore new things, and that's why you find people like to go hiking. Even though I don't like hiking,
right? But they want to explore that part. Right.
They want to go hiking, open their balloon, go to the highest mountains and all that. They like to break boundaries.
Right.
Go underwater. And even though sometimes it ends in disaster.
I know.
But the typical American is wants to explore.
Right.
So I would say that the American market, welcomed Afrobeat with open arms because they felt like it's time we give sounds from
something new.
Let's listen. And if we don't like it, and when Americans don't like something, they don't like it. And when they like it, they go for it. Like with open arms. So I think it was a case of wanting to try something new. I mean, if you're having McDonald's and Chick-fil-A all the time,
right?
And then sometimes you want some Applebee's or In and Out and all of that. So I think it was the quest for accepting something new, and then they enjoyed it. And don't forget that some Africans, I won't say most, let me say some, have roots in Africa.
Right.
So it's like if American music, rap, R&B, rock, country, pop, if that's all I've known all my life, and then there's a new sound coming from Africa, and my ancestors, my parents, wherever from Africa, okay, let's see what's up. So I think one I would say is so let me just prune it down to two reasons. The American markets accepted Afrobeats for two reasons.
Right.
One, to explore new sounds, and two, for the African Americans wanted to connect it with their ancestors.
Okay, fair enough. So this is the part. It might sound crazy though, but in my opinion, I don't understand when the Niger speaks in terms of in the music, the pigeon English, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I'll pick up maybe one or two words, but it's crazy. So. How hard to learn the pigeon English? That's number one.
Okay.
Number two. Can they sing without using the pigeon English, or is that adding the flavor to the music when you're speaking pigeon English?
Okay, so to your first question,
Yeah.
There's pigeon English, right?
Yeah.
Pigeon English is basically speaking English in the most crude way, in the most down to earth way, in the most basic way.
Right.
Basically, it's not everybody that understand. English, they usually say it's the coins English, in quotes.
Right.
It's coins English. Now, coins English is when you speak English fluently.
Right.
Like we're doing now, right?
Right.
You speak English without blemish, without mistakes. You get your tenses right. Your vocabulary is right correctly, and all of that. That's the coins English, perfect English. Pigeon English is when it's imperfect English. In fact, I think I just got it now. Say
imperfect English.
Imperfect English, pigeon English.
Right.
Then the proper English language, coins.
And that been done intentionally. This is we call maybe they say the Queen English.
Yeah, Queen English.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then intentionally, they made Pidgin English against that.
Oh yeah.
Like this is ours.
This is ours.
This is us.
Yeah. So basically, you know, Nigeria was colonized by the British, right?
Right.
I mean, we got independence in 1960.
Right.
In fact, Nigeria is gonna be 65 in October.
We were 61, by the way.
Oh really?
Yeah, 61. So 1 year. Hey, we were behind you, man.
4 years.
We never want to be. No, 61.
Tanzania, right?
Tanzania. 61. Remember that part.
So we're a big brother.
I know, right?
Okay.
No, yeah.
So you know, the average Nigerian, you know, Nigeria is a very big country.
Right.
Very big and populous. In fact, Nigeria is the most populous black nation.
Of course, without a doubt.
Right.
Oh, from Africa or all day?
Close to, I mean, as at the last census,
Oh yeah.
as at the last head counts, there was like 200 million,
Right.
200 million, 210 million. But now, I'm sure by the time, you know, they'll be postponing the census. You know,
Right.
they can't, you know, imagine.
That's crazy.
Nah, I have to drink.
You can't get.
Imagine postponing census because of logistics. That tells you how
It's so
big that.
overwhelmed.
You know, the last census was like more than 15 years ago.
You're kidding me.
10, 15 years ago.
Back home we do it every 5 years.
Nah.
Every 5. No,
Nigeria keeps postponing.
because it's
Keeps
hard.
postponing because it's hard.
Too much.
Yeah, people are everywhere. People are everywhere. You know what it takes to post? I mean, ideally census should be like every 5 years, right?
Right, like
You know,
no friend. Yeah, that's like standard.
standard.
Right.
Nigerians been postponing census for, I mean, just, you know, I'm guessing now, it must be like, I mean, since my adulthood,
You never had
I can't remember the last time they conducted census. So now it must be like 15 years.
Wow.
They keep postponing and postponing and postponing because it's going to cost logistics, the number of days, and usually for census they try to you know, like they want people to stay at home.
Right.
So usually during census,
when they show up, they can come in.
So during census they be like, okay, it's work-free day and all that. They don't know how to do it. So I'm guessing Nigeria has 250 million people now.
Easy.
Now, going back to Pidgin English and why Pidgin English dominates, it's not the whole 250 million people
Speaking.
that will speak perfect English.
Oh. But they speak Pidgin English.
Yeah, they speak Pidgin English.
Okay.
Yeah, so Pidgin English came about. Pidgin English is a child of necessity.
Right.
You know, when you know, necessity is when, you know, makeshift.
Right.
If you can't deal with it, you go with it. So if everyone can speak perfect English, then there has to be, you get optional.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was what brought about Pidgin English. You get.
Right.
And the good thing is, I'm happy that, you know, we're already exporting Pidgin English.
Everywhere
You know,
now.
we have countries like, you know, even in America, yeah. You
Right.
know,
Oh, yeah.
Me, I'm a Pidgin English advocate, right?
Right.
Like for me, I teach people. Even if we met like yesterday, I'll start teaching you Pidgin English because, you know, it's so fun and, you know,
Okay.
and then you don't have to be right about Pidgin English.
Right. And the funny part, you said that. I watched it on one of the social media. I think Banner Boy was somewhere in the UK.
Okay.
Was performing, bro. And I'm not trying to be funny though. When you see the crowd,
Yeah.
I would say at least half white, half black,
Yeah.
or maybe white with the dominant. I swear to God, you see, and hey, don't call me in a bad way. The white people singing the song,
Yeah.
head to verse after verse after verse in Pidgin
Pidgin English.
and I'm like,
Yeah, because Pidgin English is fun, and then you know the good thing about Pidgin, you don't have to you don't have to be too careful. You know, you don't have to be too careful. You know, if you're speaking English, you know, if we're outside now, and then we're talking, and then we you know, communicating with people and all that, you know, you want to be prim and proper, you know, speak good English because you don't want anybody pointing themselves and picking holes. Pidgin English is
be you.
be you. if you get it wrong, you get it wrong. It's allowed.
You get it wrong.
You know, wrong English is allowed in pidgin English. You understand?
That's amazing.
So that's
amazing.
So the good thing is Nigerian artists now they're exporting it. So you're talking about pidgin English in Nigerian music, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a choice. Yeah. Like I said, most of your audience don't understand the Queen's English. They don't understand proper English. Right. So the best way to communicate with a larger audience in Nigeria is pidgin English. Now, everyone, both educated and uneducated, understands pidgin English. But not everyone understands perfect English.
Okay.
You understand?
I see.
So it's better you sing in pidgin English, so it would, so your song would, blow up.
The mass would understand.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The demography.
Right.
It would expand from grandpas, grandmas, dad, moms. You yourself, your kids, your nephew, your siblings, and everyone. So it cuts across. And during features, you hear, foreigners, the Americans, the top Americans, singing or rapping, in pidgin.
Right.
Snoop Dogg did it. Chris Brown.
Chris Brown.
Chris Brown. Chris Brown.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it can only get better.
Right. Absolutely. So another question what I have. So let's go back to the. Okay. Before I can ask you my next question, what's it? So I do know also. There's the Jamaican use of part one. So part one pidgin is completely different, right?
Yeah, pidgin is different, completely different.
You cannot understand each other.
No.
Okay, that's cool. So let me ask you this: where can I learn this pidgin English? Let's say if I decide, you know what, F this, I want to learn pidgin English.
It would be like you just have a Nigerian friend. You have me.
I'm done.
I'm done. You have me.
Right.
You have me. So to understand pidgin English, currently, and then I wish. Well, we don't know. Who's listening?
Right.
Oxford,
of course.
Oxford could be listening now.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right now, you have some Nigerian words, some Nigerian slangs in Oxford Dictionary.
Right.
So probably they're listening now. I don't know. They could,
add some bits and pieces into the dictionary.
But to understand pidgin English, you have to know a Nigerian, and you have to be friends with a Nigerian. So once you can do that, then you understand pidgin English.
Right. Man, that's what's up. So in terms of, so now I know where to learn. Obviously, I've got Mr. Waley, so we're good on that part. So what else in terms of, what's your next step for yourself? In terms of, I know you're generalist in whatever the stuff you're trying to achieve in your life. What's your next move now?
Maybe I'll start from this conversation.
Right.
Now we talked about where you can learn pidgin English. Who knows? I might just start an online class for pidgin.
Hey, and I'll be the first one of your clients, bro.
Maybe I might just start, a pidgin class.
There we go.
An online pidgin class. You guys just some couple of dollars.
Right. Here we go.
Yeah, but for me, I'm a journalist.
Right.
And a music enthusiast. I like music. I like fashion, I like politics, I like sports, I like business, I like everything,
Right.
But for me, it's been journalism and it's gonna be journalism. So I look forward to documenting individuals,
right,
organizations, and all of that. Eventually, I'm gonna have a biography.
Okay.
But I'd like to document others as well.
Right.
Because I'll probably document Afrobeats.
Hey.
From my perspective.
Right.
From my perspective.
From your perspective.
Yeah, because the good thing is when Afrobeats started blowing up was when I was like in secondary school. It was those days of cassette. So I can speak authoritatively on Afrobeats.
Right.
Right. So anything I'm gonna do is gonna be around journalism, writing, documenting, and of course some ideas too, that
will come through.
Yeah, that will come through,
Yeah.
So
Man, I appreciate that, brother. And again, like I said again, thanks for taking your time. I know you have a busy schedule, but you still had my little time just to come to Lughie Podcast.
Anytime, man.
Without forgetting, please tune in Lughie Podcast, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Thank you. Salute.